From generation to generation, religion and mythology get passed down one way or the other, and word of mouth and different interpretations keep these mythologies alive, bringing different cultures together. Since it becomes difficult to track down the exact and precise origins of every myth, such a phenomenon that binds us all together is called oral tradition. But yeah, basically, this explains how so many myths, legends, historical figures, and stories might kind of sound the same. And since these ideas get translated into different forms of art, it definitely makes sense for religion, culture, and mythology to find echoes in superhero stories too. So let's explore one mythological-looking idea through the Green Lantern series, and explore the 8 most powerful Lantern Corps entities, which are officially tied to DC's emotional spectrum, but sometimes feel like they're winking at ancient myths, biblical imagery, and even the 7 deadly sins. Ion, the entity of willpower. Our first entity is Ion, the ultimate Green Lantern entity and the embodiment of willpower. Ion is most closely tied to the Green Lantern Corps, the green light of the emotional spectrum, and the massive mythology surrounding Oa and the central power battery. While there are other entities within the Lantern Corps mythos, Ion is the one that represents willpower, courage, peace, and the force that allows Green Lanterns to overcome impossible odds. Ion has often been discussed as the opposite emotional force to Parallax, the demonic entity of fear. In Green Lantern lore, Parallax was hidden inside the central power battery and became the infamous yellow impurity, the weakness that haunted the Green Lantern Corps for years. Ion, meanwhile, stands as the living symbol of the green light and the power of will itself. Ion is so powerful that it doesn't function like a normal Green Lantern. It's not simply a ring slinger who needs to recharge every few hours. It represents the cosmic force behind willpower itself, making it one of the most important entities in the entire emotional spectrum. At its highest levels, Ion has been associated with godlike power, massive energy manipulation, and reality-bending potential. But is he stronger than Goku, though? While Ion is incredibly powerful, the important thing to remember is that the entity's nature is not the same as Parallax's. Parallax corrupts and manipulates through fear, while Ion is more closely tied to empowerment, will, and heroic focus. That difference matters a lot. One of the most famous Ion stories belongs to Kyle Rayner. After Kyle defeats Alexander Nero and absorbs vast amounts of green energy, including power connected to Hal Jordan's sacrifice in Earth's sun, he reaches a godlike state and becomes known as Ion. However, this power begins taking away his humanity. Kyle eventually gives up that massive energy and uses it to restore the Guardians of the Universe and the Green Lantern Corps. Later continuity would frame Ion more clearly as the living entity of willpower, making Kyle's Ion phase one of the most important chapters in the history of the Green Lantern mythos. Parallax, the entity of fear. Where there's will, there's also fear and gut-wrenching paranoia. Parallax is another powerful Lantern Corps entity, and unlike Ion, it is dangerous because it can corrupt and manipulate the actions of the people it possesses. It's a demonic parasitic entity represented by the color yellow, and it's been held responsible for spreading terror, paranoia, and chaos across civilizations. For years, Green Lanterns believed that the color yellow was simply their weakness. But Green Lantern Rebirth revealed a deeper and darker truth. The yellow impurity was not just a technical flaw, it was Parallax, the living embodiment of fear hidden inside the central power battery by the Guardians. This explains why Hal Jordan's fall became one of the most tragic stories in Green Lantern history. Even Hal, the fearless Green Lantern, was vulnerable after Coast City was destroyed. At his lowest point, after being forbidden from recreating the city, Hal traveled to Oa, destroyed the Green Lantern Corps, absorbed the energy from the central power battery, and became the figure known as Parallax. But what the entity never fully understood was Hal's heroic core. Even after being corrupted, Hal was still capable of introspection, guilt, sacrifice, and redemption. In Green Lantern Rebirth, Hal confronts the truth of Parallax's influence and fights back against the fear entity. With help from the resurrected Green Lanterns, the Spectre, and the Corps, Parallax is eventually separated from Hal and imprisoned again. Parallax is formidable because it doesn't just hit hard. It attacks belief, confidence, and identity. It can manipulate people, exploit trauma, and turn fear into a weapon. However, it's not completely untouchable. Experienced Lanterns like Hal, John, Guy, and Kyle have resisted its influence at different points because they understand what Parallax is and how it works. That makes Parallax terrifying, but not unbeatable. Ophidian, the entity of avarice. Adam and Eve are promised an eternity in the Garden of Eden if they listen to God and don't let themselves be tempted. But a snake starts talking to Eve, tempting her to eat a fruit she is not meant to eat. Indiana Jones once rightly exclaimed, "Why does it always have to be snakes?" Ophidian is another lantern entity born from the emotional spectrum, and it represents avarice, greed, hunger, and desire. It's not officially the snake from Adam and Eve, but come on, the visual and thematic comparison is hard to ignore. Ophidian is a serpent-like entity that embodies the idea of wanting everything and never being satisfied. Its own greed is its worst enemy, because anyone who becomes connected to the orange light tends to want complete possession of it. That's one of the reasons why there is usually only one living orange lantern, Larfleeze. He doesn't want to share the power, the battery, the rings, or even the idea of ownership itself. In the Agent Orange storyline, we witness just how uncontrollable and lethal Larfleeze can become. He's not just a villain with a ring, he's a living embodiment of endless hunger. His orange lantern power allows him to create orange light constructs of those he has killed or consumed into his core, turning greed into an army. Larfleeze is eventually subdued when Hal Jordan temporarily uses a blue ring of hope, because hope can weaken or calm the overwhelming pull of avarice. But even that's not enough to truly defeat the Orange Agent. The Guardians of the Universe are forced into negotiation, and in the end, Larfleeze remains the sole bearer of the orange power battery. Ophidian is dangerous because greed doesn't always look like rage or fear. Sometimes it looks funny, sometimes it looks childish, but in DC's emotional spectrum, avarice is one of the most consuming forces in existence. The Butcher, the entity of rage. When the first act of murder was committed, rage was born in the form of the Butcher. The Butcher is another Lantern Corps entity, and it represents pure anger, violence, bloodlust, and rage. It's often associated with Atrocitus, the massacre of Sector 666, and the brutal birth of the Red Lantern Corps. Atrocitus became one of the last survivors of Sector 666 after the Manhunters slaughtered almost everyone there. That massacre became the emotional wound that shaped his entire existence. Fueled by hatred for the Guardians and the universe that allowed such horror to happen, Atrocitus used blood magic and rage to create the Red Lantern Central Power Battery. The Butcher isn't exactly like Parallax or Ophidian. It doesn't always need to control its host in the same direct way. Instead, it provokes, amplifies, and weaponizes rage. It makes its host listen to the voices of the people they hate, the people they lost, and the people they blame. That makes the Butcher terrifying because it doesn't need to invent pain. It only needs to sharpen the pain that's already there. During the Brightest Day storyline, the Butcher becomes one of the emotional spectrum entities collected and hunted as part of the larger cosmic conflict. Hal Jordan also has a dangerous brush with Red Rage after Lyra's death, when he is briefly overwhelmed by the Red Ring's influence. A blue ring of hope is used to neutralize the effects, showing how hope can counterbalance rage, even if it doesn't erase the trauma behind it. Aside from provocation, the Butcher can project rage and create solid weapons like blades and cleavers. It is violent, direct, and horrifyingly simple. If Ion is the power to stand firm, then the Butcher is the power to break everything in front of you. Adara, the entity of hope. Nothing is more beautiful and powerful than a ray of hope. Adara is the entity of hope, and according to the mythology of the emotional spectrum, it was born from the first prayer of a sentient being. It's represented by the color blue and is often portrayed as one of the more benevolent emotional entities. Adara is hosted by Nicole Morrison, a young girl whose pain and hope make her an important part of the Brightest Day era. Unlike rage, fear, or greed, hope is not automatically destructive. It inspires, it heals, it strengthens. But in DC's universe, hope is still an overwhelming cosmic force, and that means it can possess, influence, and transform people too. Adara is especially important because the blue light of hope can empower Green Lanterns and help counteract darker emotional forces. It can calm rage, inspire broken heroes, and even give people the strength to keep fighting when everything seems lost. One of Adara's most striking moments comes when hope reaches even Larfleeze, making him believe that his family might still be alive and missing him. That is a huge moment because Larfleeze is almost impossible to move emotionally beyond greed, but hope breaks through even that hunger. During the blackest night and brightest day era, the blue light also becomes extremely important to Hal Jordan and Barry Allen. Hal uses blue energy to counter the Red Ring's influence, while Barry proves especially compatible with the blue light because of his own deep connection to hope. The key point is not that Barry sabotages Hal, but that the blue light responds to the person whose emotional state best matches hope. Adara's powers can even help revive dying stars, making it one of the most beautiful and quietly powerful entities in the Lantern mythos. Proselyte, the entity of compassion. Do you know what they say about second chances? Don't give them to the ones who are heinous. Well, actually, I just made that up because it's late and any witty references currently elude me. But anyway, the power of compassion is another entity within the Lantern Corps mythos represented by Proselyte. Proselyte resembles an octopus-like creature and is represented by the color indigo. It took physical form when one being first showed compassion toward another. On paper, compassion sounds like the safest and purest emotion in the spectrum, but in DC lore, the Indigo tribe makes this much more complicated. The Indigo tribe is often associated with redemption, but also with forced emotional conversion. Many of its members were once hardened criminals who were transformed through the power of compassion. That creates a moral problem. Are they truly redeemed, or are they being controlled? Are they becoming better people, or are they being emotionally rewritten? This is why Hal Jordan and others are suspicious of the Indigo tribe. Hal sees the process less like voluntary redemption and more like forced conversion. That tension makes Proselyte fascinating because compassion is usually seen as good, but DC asks what happens when compassion is imposed without consent. Proselyte also becomes dangerous when used by villains. During the War of the Green Lanterns arc, the rogue Guardian Krana captures the emotional entities and uses them to control members of the Green Lantern Corps. That proves even compassion can become a weapon when placed in the wrong hands. But it's still important to remember the famous emotional spectrum idea. Rage grows from murder, hope from prayer, and compassion is offered to us all. Proselyte is powerful because it does not destroy the enemy, it changes them. And sometimes that might be even scarier. The Predator, the entity of love. As love ignites into existence, so does the Predator. The Predator embodies love, both at its best and at its worst. It can heal, empower, and connect people, but it can also obsess, possess, manipulate, and terrify. The Predator is tied to the violet light of love and the Star Sapphire mythology. Its most famous connection is Carol Ferris, the boss and on-off girlfriend of Hal Jordan. Through the Star Sapphire legacy, Carol becomes one of the most important hosts and wielders of violet light, showing how love in DC's emotional spectrum is never simple. Love can be heroic. It can make people sacrifice themselves. It can make them fight impossible wars. But love can also become obsession. That's where the Predator becomes dangerous. It doesn't always inspire healthy connection. Sometimes it twists love into control, jealousy, stalking, and emotional possession. This is why the Predator is often treated as one of the more volatile entities. When it influences a host, it can push that person toward unethical or extreme actions in the name of love. In some stories, hosts connected to the Predator or Star Sapphire power act erratically because they're not simply feeling love, they're being overwhelmed by it. During the battle against Necron and the Black Lanterns, love becomes an important weapon because Necron represents death, emptiness, and the absence of life. But the Predator's obsessive side can also make cooperation difficult. Carol Ferris's struggle with the violet light shows the central contradiction of the Predator. Love is one of the universe's greatest powers, but uncontrolled love can become monstrous. That makes the Predator one of the most emotionally complicated entities in the entire Lantern mythos. The life entity, the white light of creation. And on the first day, God said, "Let there be light." In DC's Lantern mythology, the white light is basically the ultimate force of life. The life entity is the embodiment of life itself, and it's suggested to be the source from which the other emotional entities ultimately emerge. The life entity appears at the climax of Blackest Night, where Necron, the Lord of the Unliving, tries to destroy life across the universe. Necron is the opposite force, the cosmic face of death, and he uses Black Hand as a physical link to the world of the living. Black Black Hand becomes one of Necron's most important tools, allowing the Black Lantern threat to spread. The life entity is not just another Lantern mascot, it's the cosmic source of the white light and the foundation of the White Lantern power. When it appears, the story moves beyond core rivalries and becomes a battle between life and death itself. Initially, the entity takes over Sinestro, allowing him to briefly become a White Lantern and access the memories and power of the white light. But Sinestro is not the final answer. Eventually, Hal Jordan takes control of the white light and becomes the master of all the rings, reaching the status of White Lantern. With the power of the entity, Hal and the heroes defeat Necron by resurrecting Black Hand and severing Necron's connection to the living world. Once the Blackest Night ends, the life entity vanishes, leaving behind the White Lantern power battery and setting up the next major phase of DC's cosmic mythology. The life entity is the most important of all these beings because it's not just one emotion, it's the source of life itself. If the other entities are fragments of the emotional spectrum, then the life entity is the light before the split. So, how many biblical references did you count? Regardless of the intentions of Jeff Johns and the other creators behind this era of Green Lantern mythology, these entities definitely feel mythological. Some echo religious imagery, some resemble ancient sins and virtues, and some are pure comic book cosmic madness. Officially, they are DC's emotional spectrum entities, but thematically, they feel like gods, demons, angels, monsters, and primal forces all rolled into one. I'm still surprised there's no major entity that embodies sloth. What color and what being would represent laziness? Comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.